It's one of those stocks that a lot of people are wondering if the bottom has finally been found. We're talking about PayPal, guys. When do we finally jump into this? So many people are saying this is an unbelievable fall from grace. We're coming up to $105 as we record this video. What do we do with PayPal?
So here's the thing. Everything this year, there's a high valuation name. You have to be careful about when they report. And I know we've got the PayPal report. They got absolutely crushed. Affirm has been beaten up in the fintech space. But you know who hasn't reported yet? Block hasn't reported yet. And I feel like that's like that last shoe that could drop. This is a tremendous fall. But here's what I want to stress. While I'd be waiting for at least one more round of earnings. Let's see what happens with Block. Like I said, fintech under pressure. The momentum is not very good. But there's nothing wrong, there's nothing wrong with being late when there's a tremendous amount of upside here. When you're getting a valuation reset, a lot of these names, and PayPal included, they're not cheap yet. And it seems like they are because how far they've fallen. But in 2020, like the breakout on this stock was at 125. And then it went absolutely parabolic. The bottom of that range is like $80. So would it be reasonable for this stock to fall to $80? 100% it would be reasonable, just sort of looking at that trend, ignoring how ridiculous it was on the way up. That was balance sheet 3 to 9 trillion. Stock up 3x. It's not crazy, right? So when we start to come back into the downside, I feel like you want to wait for at least some kind of a consolidation. Maybe support forms up. I don't know if it'll be at $80. Allow Block to report as well. Maybe get some positive sentiment going on in the overall space, because show me a fintech name and I'll show you abject disaster. There's been no momentum slowdown here. As a day trader, you can pick out levels like 100 and catch bounces, and that's fine. So if you want to nibble in, fair enough. I think it's always good to find a level of support first and then maybe jump in a little bit later. Because if it's going back to 200, are you going to care whether you have 117 or whether you have 105 or whether you have 103? When you're swing trading, you care a lot about that. When you're looking for the long term and trying to figure out when it's okay to get money in a risky name, allow the market to decide when it has a bit of a bottom. And I'm waiting for Square to report.
So I'm not even going to look at a chart because Neil just said it all. I mean, I was saying nibble at this thing at 200, it's at 105. Nibble at 160, it's at 105. I mean, yeah, nibble again if you want. And that's why you nibble, because, and what we mean by that is just smaller position sizing as you go. I just have these stats up here, and I don't know if you can see them. I can't really make them too much bigger than this. I know it's white on white here, but look at this. Until we get some of these growth metrics back going, like Q4 2020 active accounts, 24%. Now 13%. Bad, right? Transactions, 27, 21, right? And how about this one? Revenue, 23%. 13%. So the idea of this talk here is when do we buy PayPal? You just wait. Why buy it now? Wait for the next quarter. Wait for some of these numbers, guys, to turn around. Just these growth metrics, right? If they can't beat their revenue, if they can't beat some of their own guidelines, some of their own forecasts moving forward, then you don't buy the name. Like, look, this was my call of 2020. It ripped $100 from 100 to 230, something like that, right? So we had COVID. We had a lot of issues that year, made it go all the way back up to the upside. Now you're just absolutely crashing on PayPal. And look at it today, right? This is just one day, 111 down to 105. Like, there's no stopping this name. It's continuing to go to the downside. And honestly, I don't mind buying it here. I think at some point you're going to have to, if you do have some cash. But let's be honest, like Neil said, stocks aren't cheap right now, because if you thought they were cheap now, they might have been the same kind of cheapness a month ago, and you're down like 50% from some of those prices, right? So let this happen. We haven't seen the bottom yet in a lot of these names. Maybe we have in PayPal, maybe we haven't. But for me, it's not a buy until we see those numbers turn around, and we have to wait for next quarter and or maybe a hint from a Square, from an Affirm, something like that. Remember, PayPal just built out and spent a lot of money on their crypto, right? So you gotta sort of let that sort of ease out, let that hit the numbers. So I think PayPal eventually turns it around, but honestly, it's not a buy until you see some sort of an indication.
I'll add one more factor to that. In June of 2021, the stock traded 300 times earnings. Everyone's talking about PE ratios these days. We're at 31.4 on PayPal up here, guys. So that's as of the close yesterday. So 300 down to 31. It's finally getting into more reasonable terms in that sense. So a bit of a take there, guys. We're at 105. It's amazing on PayPal. Going forward, maybe we're finally in a place that we can think about buying it.